Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bread Radio. I'm your host, August Acker, aka Bread. Of course, Bread Radio is a podcast with video games. We're here, episode 17. We made it. It's been a little bit of time. Got a little busy with Thanksgiving holiday and Haley's birthday recently. So, not that I forgot about any of you guys. Of course, the date today is Friday, December 11th. In the year 2020, the best year in recorded history, the pandemic year, as some call it. If you like Bread Radio, you can listen to wherever you listen to podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I think we're in iHeartRadio now, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube. And if it's somewhere if it's not somewhere you listen to podcasts, let me know and I'll figure out how I can get it on there. If you're interested in buying merch, we got some cool mugs that my friends have sent me pictures of. One who might be on the show today. T-shirts and windbreakers on breadradio.live. The direct URL is breadradio.live/merch. But if you don't want to rep any merch out in the wild, I don't blame you. You can support directly on patreon.com/breadradio. Again, that's patreon.com/breadradio. Thanks for all the support, guys. I've had a couple people join as patrons, and it helps motivate me to keep doing what we're doing here. As with any, what's a show without criticism? So if you have corrections, you have questions, you have emails or topics you want us to discuss on the show, you can email us at breadradiolive@gmail.com. One more time, that's breadradiolive@gmail.com. I repeat that like 6 times an episode. Are you guys tired of it yet? So as I kind of alluded to, I've bullied someone into joining today, someone that I've done podcasts with in the past as well. My good buddy, Greg. Hey, Greg. You here?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Just something to point out with the t-shirts, as I am a proud owner of one.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't believe that you quality tested them, because my head does not fit through the hole, which is a huge problem with t-shirts in the past, and it is in the present as well. I struggle to put on the t-shirt, so be wary if you have a large head.
Which I know there's a champion one, which is one I have.
I got the long sleeve something. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, I'll have to.
It looks really cool, but like, it could use a larger radius.
I'm just saying, I have the champion one, and I think I have a just as big, if not larger, head than you do, and it suited me well. So your mileage may vary depending on head size. I'll put that disclaimer on the site for sure.
Yeah, so just you asked for corrections and questions, comments. So
right.
Figured I'd just air them out early on.
Yeah, it's cool. It's not like I said the email a couple times where you could send them.
Which email?
But breadradiolive@gmail.com.
Oh.
So you can send, if you've got concerns about head size, you guys can email me there. Updates in my life, Greg, before we get more to you. Last podcast, it was the day before Thanksgiving. We had a very small, obviously, Thanksgiving. Didn't travel back home to see my parents with good reason. Please, guys, just be safe out there so we can all go back to our normal lives. Because as much as I enjoy staying inside and playing video games all the time, in fact, that might be my favorite thing, man, I just want to go to a bar with my friends and have a beer. So, like, let's, I know that's the least of our worries is me going to a bar, but there's plenty other concerns in the world. So do your part, wear a mask, distance, so we can get back to life. Haley also had a birthday. We got her some gifts. I got her this, speaking of merch, I got her this, Greg, have you ever heard of the company Birds Aren't Real?
No, I haven't, but I'm now Googling them.
Yeah, there's basically it's like I think it's fake. Basically there's a conspiracy that all the birds in the world are like government spies, like cameras and stuff. And Haley would always joke about that as like, I don't know, she loves joking about conspiracy theories. So I got her a hat from Birds Aren't Real. And a few other things. We went to a food truck last night and grabbed a burger. It was a really low key, obviously we couldn't really do anything for her birthday, but it was a good time. So, wanted to prioritize the important relationships in my life first. So that's why we haven't been on the podcast for a bit. Plus work's just been fucking crazy. And if you're listening, if you work with me and you're listening to this, like, I mean, you probably agree with me. So like, there's nothing to tell on. It's been crazy lately. That's probably a good thing, I guess. So, Greg, what about you, man? What's been going on in your life?
Yeah, I mean, pretty stable life as
Right,
it goes with this, right? Happily still employed and, luckily remaining healthy and people around me too.
right.
But aside from that, I mean, slogging out work and then enjoying, I am enjoying. I mean, I feel uniquely equipped to handle a quarantine for
I
a long
know,
period of time.
I know.
Um,
You and me
I
both.
excel at sitting around and doing very little and
Yes.
moving as little as possible. I have recorded days on my iPhone that, I'm looking to switch over to Android, but I will miss having in my step counter that I had a day with only 76 steps, completely verifiable.
Yeah.
Um, so, it hasn't impacted me much.
Right.
Um, you know,
I so I'm doing the Reddit gift exchange, like the Secret Santa, and one of the questions was just like, "How's your year?" And like I started typing up, and I was like, you know what, like this year sucked, but it's kind of sucked for everyone. And like I have my job, I can work from home, I'm playing games, like I really don't have that much to complain about. It's just trying to do your part for the rest of the world, I guess. Um, so yeah, it's good to hear that you're doing pretty well, and we play some games from time to time offline, so which we'll talk about today. So, also, just the Game Awards were last night. We're not going to talk about much regarding the Game Awards. I haven't had time to like dig into all the videos and do my research. So, since it's been a little while since I did a podcast, I'm thinking about doing a fast follow here over the course of the weekend and digging into the Game Awards and starting to think about Game of the Year. So, but we'll get to that at the end of the show. But I did download Cyberpunk. I'm about an hour in. My character looks ridiculous. So much so that I'm actually thinking about starting over again tonight after the after we're done recording here. But just so you know, if you're here for Cyberpunk, that'll probably be on the next episode. So let's get right into it. Like, Greg, what you been playing lately, man?
yeah. So, a lot of Warzone. I love Warzone. There's something about that game that reminds me of when we played PUBG many moons ago, where like
Right.
it's been great because cross platform has just been awesome. Playing with people on PlayStation while I'm on PC. I tried playing on PlayStation 4 once and I cannot do
Yeah.
controller shooting anymore. Even in like just different games. Like I tried to play even just like the campaign for Modern Warfare on
Dude,
my
I'm ruined.
PS4. And
Yeah.
yeah, like it's a lost skill. Like I think that I could probably play Halo 3 still because that's such a muscle memory of like so many
Right.
hours on an Xbox 360 controller. But other than that, like I don't think I can pick up the sticks and like enjoy myself playing a video game. It just there's something about it that is just completely destroyed in my like mind about holding a controller for something that's not like maybe like an action adventure game like an Assassin's Creed, which I've been playing Valhalla as well as you,
Mm-hmm.
which you're playing that on the PS5, right?
Valhalla. Yeah.
Yeah, that game's been awesome so far. I'm only about like a dozen hours in, but I'm really enjoying it. The one thing that I will say is I don't know if you've noticed this with the game, but it feels so. I really like that I can ride my horse in water,
Right.
because like there's so many rivers and like it has they've taken away like
That's like how you get around in the game if you don't ride your horse.
yeah.
You there's rivers all over England, so you instead of the ocean like in Odyssey, you go get around by river, right?
Yeah, and the thing that like really has been bothering me with that game and like breaks my immersion with it at times is like it feels like that nobody ever like clip brushed things. Like I just get stuck. Like I try to climb a wall and then I just pop off, but then I climb it again and I'm up. And like it just like
Right.
it's very tough to traverse it at times. And maybe that's just because I'm like playing a game like Warzone that's like completely different thing and my mind's just not programmed for like that type of open world
Do
game right
do you
now.
mean with the horse or with like your character or like
Everything
both?
really, mainly
Yeah.
the character, not the horse as much, because the horse kind of like has its own physical boundaries in which it can jump off of something or can't. Your
Hmm.
player does not. an older Assassin's Creed game. So to start off quarantine, I started replaying all the old Assassin's Creed games because I love them so much.
Yeah.
You could like you knew and like it was a little bit corny because like buildings would just have like a random hook on them, but you knew what you could climb. In this game, I ran up to a complete vertical 90-degree wall and just was like climbing it like a superhero. So
Right.
it's just a little bit weird because it's so scalable, but at the same time, there are pockets that are not scalable, but you have no way to differentiate the two. And it's very I don't know, just like is a little bit weird. I also think that the map is overly inundated, and the game again is we could talk about probably about a dozen different games out right now,
Hmm.
but the level gating systems that these games use now, that is that is something that just gets to me at times.
What do you? So I want to go back to something you were saying like a little bit earlier, about the climbing. Like I want to pick apart a few things with Valhalla because I kind of covered it in the last podcast. I think you generally agree with some of what I said on the last show, but I've since beat the game. Um, so you can climb at literally everything, almost everything. Do you think like that isn't necessarily a negative to me, but I think it's also just informed by Breath of the Wild, right? Like I feel like that's just one of the like Ubisoft like I feel like Assassin's Creed they set the tone for the like open world over the past, 10 years. They put the blueprint together. I mean there are a couple companies put the blueprint together. You look at your Skyrims, of course.
I
But
think
I
that
mean
really Grand Theft Auto
GTA.
was really like GTA 3 for me was like the first time that I was like, this is the future of what I'm going to
Right.
see in video
But
games, like and expect from a AAA title that's
right.
going to take 50 hours or
I,
so.
I don't necessarily mean like the open world. I just mean they have like a specific formula with their open world
Oh, I see what
that
you
like
mean.
a
Yeah,
ton
for
of
sure.
games like 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 you get to this certain area after you can complete this, and it's gated by X, Y, and Z, and every section has the same 5 or 6 activities that you can complete, right? But and they seem to pull in certain small pieces from other games to try and like perfect their open world design, right? So I feel like I played Odyssey before I played Valhalla, and you could climb everything in Odyssey as well. I seem to remember in the past, like there were some critiques of how climbing used to be handled because climbing almost was like a puzzle in a way, especially in like the early Assassin's Creed games, like maybe
Yes,
like 1 and 2, like it was treated like
for
a
sure.
puzzle.
They
But
were action adventure 3D platformers
right,
essentially, right?
right, and then like once we got through 3, they just became straight up action games. So like now that they're more like action games, I feel like part of that was them sort of just like, all right, let's just let everyone climb everything. And I think I brought this up a while back when talking about Breath of the Wild, but like climbing everything in Breath of the Wild felt so good that I almost like expect every open world is going to let me do that. So like while I do agree with you that it's like, man, I'm just going to go do whatever and jump on this, like I don't know, that feels okay to me, I think.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean, I think one of the my issue with it is not so much the ability that I have to climb everything. It's that it almost feels like they built and I haven't played as much Odyssey as I would have liked. I'm actually watching my girlfriend play through it now, which I guess is something that maybe we'll circle back to a little
Yeah,
bit
we'll
later
we'll
on.
segue into that for
But
sure.
the issue that I'm having is that at least on PC, it feels like um I know in or in Counter Strike rather, they call it clip brushing, and maybe it's the same everywhere else. But like, there are certain surfaces that needed to be like polished or something
Right.
a little bit more, and I get stuck in like little edges of the thing that like. Like game testing, for instance, like I'm pretty sure they just had people like literally just run into like different surfaces and see what the issue
If
is.
they can clip
And
through
I
it.
feel
Yeah.
like this game was released too early, at least on PC. Maybe the PC version is just a buggy mess and the console version is fine because that's really what they're targeting with their games, right?
Yeah,
So
it's actually
if
been
you're buying AC Odyssey on or Valhalla on PC, you were buying it no matter what. On
right.
console, it was a release title, so like they had to convince those people that it was a good game. They didn't have to convince the PC Assassin's Creed players that it was a good game because they have a wealth of games that are always available
I would
that they
actually
can just pick up.
I would actually maybe think the opposite. Like they're a launch title for the consoles, and people are just hungry for something new to play that's next gen. So like that's part of the reason why I was like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna get. Well, I liked Odyssey, so with Valhalla, I wasn't that like high on it when I watching videos, but I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get it because the only other thing I can get on my PS5 right now is like Miles Morales and Bug Snacks, right? Whereas on PC, you're competing with the library of like a bunch of different vendors. I feel like,
Yeah, that's what I mean. So like even if it's buggy on PC, like they're not trying to convince me to buy it. Like or they're not really trying like because if
yeah,
I feel like people on console like they're just gonna buy it. So like that has to be a good game because like that's who they're catering it towards. Where the PC version, like I c- I could take it or leave it, but I love this. I guess yeah, I see what you mean. Actually, yeah, that would probably be the shoe on the other foot. Either way, though, like those what are those missions where they're like kind of like the secret levels in Super Mario Sunshine? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I
It's like a
don't.
glyph or something
Oh,
where
like the
you like
glitch
yeah,
missions.
yeah.
Yeah,
So the first
the
glitch mission,
animus glitch.
I got to my first one about 3 hours in, and basically these missions, if for the listeners, if you haven't played the game or seen them, they're these like blue platforms, and you have to like point these lasers at them to stabilize them at times. So like one of them will be there, but it'll be kind
It's
of like a
it's a
little like
platforming puzzle, right? So
yeah,
just to like
and
simplify it.
to certain platforms you can't jump on unless they have a laser pointing at them. The first one I got to, I tried it 3 different times. One when I was like 3 hours in, tried it after another mission, and then finally worked about 8 hours into the game. The first laser was never pointed at the initial platform that you had to jump onto, so I can never start the puzzle. I just couldn't do
It
it.
was just like this
It was just
busted.
completely busted,
It,
completely bugged, could not even do it. And
huh?
I've had like one or two other missions that are like that, that I just cannot complete for the life of me.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, so my experience with the game has been I love it, but there are a lot of like immersion breaking things within the world that are not the fault of the game itself. I'm interested in the story and I enjoy the theme of it. But
Maybe we
those type
bury
of
the lead too.
issues,
How
yeah.
far into the game are you?
I'm about 15 hours in.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, um, you know, it again, like it hasn't stopped me from playing it, but
Right.
at the same time, it's really frustrating being like, "Oh, I'm gonna go do this," and then you get to it and you're like, "Oh, wait, what's this cool glitch in the game?" Because, um, for people that haven't played Assassin's Creed or aren't huge fans of it, one thing for me is playing through all the old ones and everything is like the story outside of the main historical piece, the modern day story is something that I always kind of liked having that kind of running timeline. And these glitch puzzles are part of that real world running timeline,
Hmm.
and not in the historical piece. And I get to my first one, I'm like, oh, here's a nugget of story outside of the game itself and the historical context of it, and I can't even complete it. And I was just like, all right, cool, here we go.
That's actually kind of interesting because I feel like, well, maybe it's my own echo chamber that I'm in, but most of the people I've talked to or most of the places I've listened to, like the modern day story serves to tie the games together as Assassin's Creed games, but like most people are in it for the historical, like whatever setting they're in. So like that's kind of interesting to hear you say that you're in it for the modern day story, because like if I'm honest, that's where I think some of the story beats like fall apart for me.
So I think that modern day story is completely mismanaged, and they created a new series within the series after Assassin's Creed 3.
Mm-hmm.
However, in my opinion, the only thing like the historical story that you get within each Assassin's Creed game is a set piece. However, the modern story is the only thing that you are to leave the game with because the story that you play through has already ended
Right,
even
it's like
before you
over.
played it.
Right,
However, the modern world story is the only thing that has any sort of tie-in, carry through. It's the reason that you're playing this game. The reason that you're watching this piece of history is because of that modern story,
right,
and getting pieces of that is like that's the surrounding context in which why you are playing the game
right.
essentially, right? Because
But
you're
sometimes
playing it as the memory, and it really it sucks that that story doesn't really have any real purpose in a lot of ways.
Right.
I don't know what they can do when they're trying to pump out games as they are. I'm not trying to pump out. I mean,
They
I've liked
are
all the
pumping out,
games,
yeah.
but they are, and so that's like kind of where I come at it from. I really wish, like, in a lot of ways, that they would just, maybe just they can't drop the IP, but maybe like either reboot it in a way, which they kind of have, but they haven't, because they could have ditched the real world story part of it and just called it Assassin's Creed
Right.
and just gotten rid of that.
It's almost like they just use Assassin's Creed as a vehicle for like a cool setting. And then they have to like I just feel like the modern day story, they're like, okay, how do we make this fit now? You know? And I have to wonder, and I think other people have wondered this too. Like I imagine like in the first 3 games or something, I imagine there was like an ending point at some point. And then Assassin's Creed became like huge, right? And then it became another cow to milk. But I imagine there was like some ending point because they had like put so much emphasis on the bleeding effects, where like someone was in the animus, and they started to get the skills of the memory of the person they were reliving. Like, and it seemed like it was always headed towards like a modern day like assassin stealth game, right?
Yeah,
And then they were just like, well, we got to keep pumping these games out, so let's figure out how to like keep the modern day story moving forward, because we're not going to do a modern day Assassin's Creed. And I feel like that's where like that's what the modern day story kind of fell victim to.
Yeah, and the one thing that, like, I really have waited for, but we haven't gotten in Origins, Odyssey, and now Valhalla, is I really would just love a game where you are not an assassin by circumstance, or by, just like, happenstance, but you're actually just playing as a character who is a part of like that cult of assassins. Like, why is that not a thing? You know what I mean? Like, why don't we just start out being that person, other than like, hey, you bump into somebody, they're like, hey, you want a hidden blade? Like, I don't know why that can't be like at least like brought into it, because doing those missions, although like in the first one when I replayed that, it was super tedious listening, sitting on a bench and like focusing in and listening to a conversation. But the set piece of like going to assassinate some like political target or military target was really cool. And then like escaping it, and like it just like there was adrenaline to that. And I don't
Right.
have that adrenaline anymore. I just have, I'm a super powerful warrior, and I just like, kill everything.
Yeah.
And I kind of miss like that, the actual, like, I don't want Assassin's Creed 1 again. I'm not saying that, but at the same point, there are elements to that game that had a certain charisma to them, being a part of that brotherhood of assassins.
Right.
That I do, and or even like, for instance, like my favorite game, or at least one of them all time, is Assassin's Creed 2. Ezio, that whole story,
Oh,
like
yeah.
that thing was just like, to me, that's like one of
That's
the
peak
best.
Assassin's Creed.
Yeah,
Right.
and I don't know why that's not on their radar at all. Something with that, but like in an open world, it would work. Like, it would. I mean, that storyline. Now, I don't want another reprint of it, but I think that's something that still is out there. But
Right.
it just
It
isn't.
it's kind of funny, like, because when I started playing this game, I was in a Discord with my buddies, and we were like all talking about it because we just gotten it, and I was like, I don't know why, I'm just like not enjoying myself. And honestly, like, the thing that helped me the most, Greg, is I had to just let go of Assassin's Creed. Like, this isn't an Assassin's Creed game, it's a Viking game that's called Assassin's Creed. So like I just like basically gave up on stealth and went into full like, I'm going to build my character to just wreck everything. And I've been having a more fun I had a more fun time doing that. But I totally see where you're coming from, because like they put those mechanics even in this one, like, oh, you can like blend in with like these monks again to like get into a place, or you can blend in with the crowd by interacting with this table or having a seat at the table with these people. But the thing is, like, you don't have to interact with literally any of those mechanics. And it goes back to what you were saying about like the scalability of the game. Like, I can climb every building, I can climb every tower, I can basically jump right into the action anywhere at any time that I need to. So I don't need to interact with any of the stealth systems that they built, which is kind of a shame, because I like that stuff, and like the feeling of hunting down like the Order of the Ancients that you're supposed to be hunting down in that game, and like doing so in a stealth way, like feels badass. But I think I realized I was just like, man, I think I just need to play this almost like a hack and slash. And if I want to get some good stealth gameplay, and I'm gonna go play Hitman, I guess.
Yeah, and that's what it's become, and it is what it is. I actually think I was talking to you about that, where I was just like, like I've been playing it, and that's what I want to do is be an assassin. But I realized I'm a Viking, and I'm just supposed to like try to fight my way to Valhalla and
Right.
just die and just bash and just die. But it's still a great game. But that's yeah. I don't know. There's a hope out there for me in Assassin's Creed that maybe they can like just dig to their roots and just release like an AC5. Put in whatever setting you want. Doesn't matter. Just make the person from the start an assassin. You can still have it be open world. And even in Assassin's Creed 2, you could take on 40 enemies at once, and it was even easier because you just press X to counter on
Right.
Xbox, and you could kill everybody. But at least like pay some like respect or homage to your roots of the games, and maybe give that Animus storyline a close, and then revisit Assassin's Creed, Japan or whatever,
Right.
other one in this like Origins or Valhalla. But maybe like I would just like one more taste of what Assassin's Creed's roots were, with all of like the new graphic features and different worlds they're able to build now. Because imagining seeing like Rome or Venice and what they're able to do now in some of these towns and places, like looking back at Odyssey, how beautiful it was. I,
And
I
Valhalla
want
too is a
that.
good looking
I
game.
want that within like that old root version of the games. Maybe even I would take a remastered Assassin's Creed 2. That would be fine. If
That's
you want to go back and remaster that fully, I would never have another complaint about anything they do in a game if they could just give me that.
that's what I was gonna say. I feel like they're too deep into their formula, and like Valhalla and Odyssey, and those have sold too well for them to like change up their methodology again. It's almost like they need another kick in the teeth, like they got after Unity when they weren't getting good sales because it was a buggy mess. But I feel like the way you get that your old Assassin's Creed feel is through a remaster or a remake. And while like I don't love remakes anymore, I feel like it's only a matter of time before something like that comes down the pipeline. Like, because they milked Ezio for a while, probably rightly so. Like, I mean, he probably print money
They
for
still
them, but
are.
like,
He's a character in a bunch of like mobile fighting
oh
games or
yeah, I've
whatever.
seen
He
those.
is
Yeah,
still being like he
right.
is still valuable IP to them. So
So
maybe we see that at some point. I don't know.
right. I mean, next year, like Mass Effect's getting remastered, so like, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that we'll start seeing like Assassin's Creed and a few other remakes come out. I mean, Demon Souls on the PS5, like nostalgia sells, so I imagine we'll see that.
Yeah, maybe
Um,
with COVID, it's like a good filler game, and they take an extra year on the next like title game.
right.
Um, yeah.
Anyway, like I don't want to spend an hour talking about Valhalla, even though I could. I imagine next time we're on here, we'll just talk about it more once you get deeper in, because it took me like 70 hours to beat, so you still have a ways to go. So we'll talk about that more next time you're on. Um, Something you were kind of alluding to earlier that I did want to touch on, though. You said your girlfriend was playing Odyssey and you were watching that as well. How's that going? Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
It's interesting. She's awesome. Yeah, so Sarah's been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and it is so funny watching her play, and it is also a little frustrating. I'm a horrible backseat gamer,
Mhm.
but you forget like all the passive skills of playing video games that have like been molded into your mind. It's like second nature, right? Like, she's like one of the things in the new Assassin's Creed games is the most powerful weapon, in my opinion, is the bow. You can shoot an enemy, run away, and then shoot at them again, and you just hit
Right.
your headshots and you move on, and you can like take down more powerful. Another
You can
thing
like
that I threw out
save a
there was
couple for the end. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I brought up was level gating in games, which basically you have to be level 90 to do this area, and you're only level 70. But you don't want to wait 20 levels to do it because you don't want to just endlessly do side quests or, climb up big structures to get XP. So you try to take on enemies, and using the bow is a very effective way of kind of cheating through that. And so, just like watching her learn how to like do combat and everything, and just like different things. Like there was this one mission where she's saving Barnabas in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and she's like untying him, and he's like running like, "Oh, we gotta get out of here," and she's like, "But there's an eagle behind me. I'm gonna go get that." And then she just runs and gets the eagle, and then she like gets the viewpoint and like synchronizes or whatever. And then she like looks down. She's like, "Oh my god, that water looks so cool." And I was like, "Oh, but you gotta go help Barnabas. He's like fighting right now." And
Yeah.
she's like,
Just
"Yeah,
distracted.
I don't know. He'll be okay." And then she just like runs and just starts diving in the water. And there's no like icon on the map to go into this water. There's no hidden treasure here,
Yeah.
but that doesn't matter. And it's like it's kind of awesome to see like her amazement with like playing, because she played Skyrim on Xbox 360, and that's probably her last experience with a game of this scale.
You're right.
And like the graphical achievement of playing it on a like a nice gaming PC plus like just a new game with just like I mean, it's complete night and day difference. Although Skyrim still a phenomenal game, it's completely outdated in a lot of respects in terms of like the graphics and just feel of a game.
Right.
It's just it's fun, it's frustrating, it's everything. It's awesome. I mean, like I'm just happy that like for me especially, like I love playing video games, and it's cool to have like be able to share that interest. And like last night, for instance, I I, I was staying elsewhere. I was staying at my parents' house, and she was at the apartment, and she like texted me that she's gonna play Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and like it was right as like Cyberpunk finished downloading. So um I like looked in on Steam. I'm like, all right, 10 p.m. She's still playing. All right, whatever. Because I'd have to kick her off of it to play Cyberpunk. 11 o'clock, nope, still playing.
Yeah.
Midnight, still playing. 1 a.m., still playing. I was like, all right, well, no Cyberpunk for me tonight. But I was just happy she was enjoying it, and like, not just playing it for, not that like I think she would do that, but like just play it for my benefit. But
Right.
it was just cool to see her like get lost in it on her own and like not have me there. Like,
Right.
there's loot,
She's
there's
not.
loot. Like
She's not like flattering you. She's just like, I genuinely
yeah,
just love
yeah.
this,
So
so
it's
I'm into it.
cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed Valhalla, but something about Odyssey, man, like that game's just so colorful and beautiful. Like
You don't like
it's just
wooden
awesome.
fortresses?
Yeah, not all the time.
Like
The,
it's complete night and day. Like you're talking about like a real like awesome
the color palettes are
historical
just different.
landscape and color palette versus like rainy, dreary England and like
Right.
dirty Vikings. Like I mean, that's nothing against Valhalla, but like it's definitely not like
There are moments in that
scenic.
game where you're like, this is beautiful, but yeah, like the crystal blue waters of the Mediterranean, like it's hard to compare, right? So, something else we both the two of us tried together, Counter-Strike. I know everyone loves when I talk about Counter-Strike, but there's a new operation out, and the reason I kind of wanted to bring up Counter-Strike is I don't know, like we both watch pro games. There's a competitive like aspect to the game, but I feel like in the past few years, Valve has done, I wouldn't say a good job, but a better job of adding like more casual modes to the game to play. And as part of this operation, you and I did what was called a strike. Well, I forget what the modes where the terrorists attack. And we have to defend the site. Do you remember what that was called?
I think it's called Guardian.
Guardian, yeah. There's Guardian, and of course, there's a battle royale. And they've added a few maps since then to Counter-Strike and made it free to play. Of course, I just they added retake servers, which are ways for you to kind of like practice some of the like aspects of the competitive game. And while I don't think CS is perfect, and while I don't know if all of this is done out of the kindness of Valve's own heart, of course they're trying to make money, and of course they have a competitor in Valorant out now, so they need to like maintain their player base. It is good to see them like update their game. And honestly, when we were playing the other day, I was like, wow, this actually looks like pretty damn good. Like low key, they've been updating the textures like over the past couple of years, and while the source engine is definitely aged, it's still not an ugly game to look at. Well, some people play in like 4-3 stretched, but like me, a pleb who just cares about how good something looks, it looks good to me. How have you enjoyed it so far, Greg?
Yeah, it's been fun. I think the thing that like Counter-Strike has that a lot of other games I play do not have, and there's a reason that like I like playing Warzone, I like playing Counter-Strike, and I like playing like competitive shooters, is I always like walk away from a match thinking, man, I wonder what would happen if I just had played this way.
Right.
And that type of feeling is not a relaxing one, but it's a fun one, and it just that's what keeps me going back to the well is like there are plays that you make that you're just like, all right, I wish I clipped that, and like
Right.
like there's something about that like just is completely lost within my life. Being older now and not like competing in like a basketball
Sports.
tournament or
Right.
something like where or like just in general like at work like, hey Greg, you did a great job on that report. Well, I'm not like going back home and thinking like, what if I just wrote that paragraph this way?
Right.
Maybe they would have thought it was an amazing report. So it like in terms of like progression, like it's not just like adding XP to a character, it's like adding XP to yourself and like trying to like, you know, find a new way to like just be better than some, 15-year-old.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of complexity. It's a simple enough concept to understand, but it's complex enough that there's so many different ways to like play the game and execute on like a strategy that yeah, I have that's part of why I love Valorant too. It's like it's that itch I get where I'm just like, "Oh yeah, like I just played that game really well. Let me try and get into this other person's head and see if like I'm going to win, like mechanically, like you mechanics at the end of the day is going to win you the game, but you can't be brain dead either, and I just love the way it engages like my mind. So um most of my point about the operations is that I enjoy that they're bringing some of the casual aspects into the game, because you can still like mechanically the game's still top notch, but it's a good excuse to like play a match or two and not get sucked in for 2 to 3 hours, which can happen. So, I don't know. We'll probably talk about CS here and there over the coming weeks as we play more of the operation, but it's nothing groundbreaking. I don't know. I think a healthy CS and a healthy pro scene for CS is good for the gaming industry in the long haul. And I don't know if the pro scene's been that healthy, especially when they can't have any lands.
No, it hasn't. A lot of controversy and stuff that not
Yeah,
really not really wanting to get into it right now, but yeah, like the overall thing about the operation that I think is important and just like the health of that game and a game like Valorant is that there are a lot of like companies that don't make FPS because like although like maybe they're like a little bit of a barrier to the market, but like it sets a great standard for how a game should feel
right,
when you are trying to compete. And the only reason Valorant is so good is because CS is so good. And then the next game that comes out after those, the only reason that game will have the mechanics it does and feel the way it does as a shooter is because those games were so good. And like there's something just inherent to those games that like just like it just like really like has like this level of progression and detail that is just unmatched by other games.
right. It's depth. It's depth. Like sometimes to me, Call of Duty is like a very large pond, but it's 2 inches deep, and CS is like a pond out in front of your house, but you could jump into it head first and be fine. You know what I
100%.
mean?
Yeah.
Like like Warzone to me, and this isn't to like talk shit about COD. Like I have there's a special place in my heart for Call of Duty, but like at the end of the day, there's like gun metas and it's playing fast. Like that's and it's good aim. And there's definitely a little more to it than that, but like there's just a different level of complexity in CS. I don't know. To that point, though, did we talk about Warzone already? I feel like you've
No,
been
we
playing a decent
didn't.
amount.
But the one thing that I'll say about Warzone is there's a couple different ways to play Warzone. Like you can play for fun, you can play to win, and you can play to kill. And if you play to kill, it has that level of depth. If you play to do
Right.
either of the other two things, then no. But if you're wanting to like, hey, I want to get 20 kills this game, like you better like you
You play
better
like a deathmatch, yeah.
yeah, like you better like figure out how to like get good at the game because you're gonna have to win a lot of gunfights to get there. And
Right.
there's a lot of good like movement to it and like different decisions that you have to make. And sure, there's meta guns, but same thing with CS, right? Like what are you gonna do? Like go into a fight with? Oh, I think I like the Galil today. And, like you're gonna take an AK into the fight. So, similar to that, like there's just more guns to select from in
Right.
in Warzone. But if they had the same weapon wheel as Counter Strike, they basically do. It's just there's other choices too if you want
Right.
to switch it up.
I don't know. I think also like slower gameplay just works for me as a boomer in this day and age. Because like sometimes I just watch like high tier Warzone players and they're moving so fast and all they do is shoot from the hip and jump while they shoot. It's just like, man, like nothing about that just appeals to me at all. So I know that's not how you have to play, but it seems like it's almost like a meta way to play.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
mean,
just
you
it's
have
just
less
so
utility and
fast and
more player
spastic. Like
movement.
yeah, it's like the same thing I felt when Fortnite became like a huge hit in Battle Royale. It was just like, okay, like it's whoever can spam their build buttons and build most effectively and use all these crazy wacky weapons. It just I kudos to you if you're good at that. I am not. I can't process that fast enough. I guess I'm much better at processing like player movements. I guess
Yeah,
like that
Fortnite
kind
for me is like if I had to stop being left-handed and be right-handed, that's what playing Fortnite's like for me. Warzone,
right.
it's still something that is like functionally like makes sense to me. The jumping and shooting stuff, like there's some stuff like that that I just like inherently just can't do
I can't
instinctually,
either. Yeah.
because I just don't play it enough. But the overall like piece of it, like last night I was playing with two of our friends from college, and
Hmm.
I had like a 9 or 10 kill game, which is like decently high. It's not like
Yeah. Weird
crazy,
flex. All
anything
right.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like like at the end it was like a 1v1v1 and I lost it for sure. But like like it was just me and like 12 other people alive, and I killed like six of them. And like
Yeah.
there was just like between like how like the decisions I made on which guy to like shoot at first and like where to move, and like those
Yeah.
decisions with the circle, and like I don't know, like it got my heart racing. And like there's something about like the battle royales that, even though like there will be times where there won't be any I like, from the period of PUBG's death in my opinion to the like the introduction of Warzone to the Call of Duty line, that like there's just something about like winning those or getting into those fights where like there's just so many different variables, and maybe there's too many variables.
Right.
And maybe that's like part of it, is that there are too many variables, and that's why I can like be a little bit, I don't know, not to everyone's taste. But there's it's I don't know, it's just great, like the cross platform part of it, playing with
Yeah.
like college friends that don't have computers,
Yep.
that I wouldn't get to stay in touch with because I can't travel to Ohio. I went to Ohio and I had to quarantine for 14 days because of it.
Right.
So
Yeah. That's
um
that's kind of what I was gonna say next. Is like, yes, I talk trash about Warzone, but not really trash. Like this is just a critique of like the game mode, I guess. Like I still enjoy Warzone from time to time, and if anything, what they're doing with crossplay, like what Warzone's doing, what Rocket League's doing, like I'm hoping for that as a standard in the future, because it's exactly that, like being like unlocking those experiences with your friends that like it's hard to try and convince my friends like, yo dude, like just build a $1,500 computer, it'll be amazing, like instead they just have their PS4 much cheaper, they don't play it, like it's not like they game that often anyway, but I can still play a game with them and I can use like the form function that I'd like to for a controller. So that's why I, like backtrack way to the beginning of the cast, but that's why I enjoy playing Warzone, because I tried to play it on my PS5 and holy shit, I cannot aim worth crap with a controller. So it's a godsend that we can use our own mediums as a
yeah.
controller.
And I think that's like I guess that's like probably like the piece of the puzzle that's been the biggest for me as well. Is I have a friend that lives in Canada who I haven't been able to see throughout this entire pandemic, except for like 1 hour, one day where you like
Mm-hmm.
cross the border to like pick something up. But the nice thing about it is it's a great walk and talk game versus like a Counter-Strike or a Valorant where you're like
True.
constantly calming like about like,
Player
oh,
positions,
like
yeah.
let's do this and let's do that. It's like, hey guys, you want to go for a stroll in a buggy and like just like just do something stupid. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't like you don't have to play it competitively, but you can. And I think that type of part of the game is, I think like the main reason I go back to the well so much on that and other battle royales is because it doesn't have to be competitive. It's as competitive as you want to make it.
Mhm.
And I mean, nobody wants to just lose endlessly, but you're going to. There's 150 other players. Don't expect to win.
Right.
But at the same point, like I think that's a big piece of it for me too.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Like, I think the only reason I get frustrated with Warzone is because you can go like 20 minutes without seeing anyone, feel like you're in a good spot, and then just get shot in the back and your game's over and you restart. So like that definitely frustrates me sometimes. Like sometimes I do just want to be like, yo, let's drop to Superstore, drop hot, and get the shit over with. You know, like let's
Yeah.
let's
Oh,
let's
for sure.
decide if we're gonna like make it this round or not, and then go on to the next one. Like I
Yeah.
almost feel like that's the way to play. Like drop hot. You know?
Yeah, I think they've done a good job, and maybe a little bit too much of this, but like that you can buy people back, and like they've extended the game. That was the worst in PUBG when we used to play it, is like, you
Yes.
die
You
early
sit
on a
for
hot drop,
25
like
minutes.
yeah, you're just sitting there for 25. And
Right.
like at least now, like there's like these different opportunities to keep the game going. And sure, it probably like ruins some of the competitive integrity of the game to some people. But to me, it's just like, yeah, now I get to keep playing the game for fun with my friends and not wait 5 minutes to get into whatever amount of time to get into another game or something.
I think if anything, it like it gives better players the chance to continue on. Like it gives everyone the chance to go on. But like there was nothing like in PUBG. Like you're a good player, fine, you can aim well, but you have a pistol and they dropped and found an assault rifle right away. You're basically screwed. You know, like at least in this, like you get a small chance to like get back in the game if even if you didn't get a good initial drop, you get like a second swipe at it, and the game
Yeah.
makes you earn it. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Fun times though, either
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, fun times either way. Anyway, that's probably more Warzone talk than anyone wanted to hear. I don't know. It's Warzone's here to stay, whether you like it or not. And they did just come out with a trailer for Cold War's Warzone, which I only watched once. I need to get back. I need to go dive back into some of these preview trailers, but I'm ready for a new map. Speaking of Cold War, you did have that listed under some games you've been playing. So do you have Black
Yeah.
Ops Cold War?
Yep. Unfortunately, I do. I played about 7 hours of it.
Unfortunately, you do.
And so the actual campaign was pretty fun.
I feel
have to
like
say.
Black Ops, like if they do, I mean, their multiplayer was a standard for a little bit, but I feel like their campaigns have always been solid, right?
So they had better stealth missions in this campaign than I've seen out of Assassin's Creed. Just to like circle back,
Right.
like there was actually like some cool like undercover missions that felt really unique. The multiplayer is just not for me.
Right. It just has a different feel than
It's a bit
Modern
arcadey,
Warfare?
which is fine, but the guns just they don't feel fun. And also like the maps are just awful. They're just sprawling and dark and tough to like really enjoy. So hopefully that new content drop makes it a little bit more fun because I love playing Warzone. I like having meta guns.
you've jumped
So you have
off
to grind
already?
out those meta guns, and I cannot grind for meta guns endlessly playing the game that it is currently.
Do you know, are they when Cold War Warzone comes out, like are they combining those two together?
Yes,
like
all guns will be available.
Wow. And then like you could queue for one map or the other.
Yeah, so the second map's gonna be like a mini one, with like half the lobby of a normal game, and it's gonna be like a small
Oh.
compact map. I think the new big 150 player map, the rumor is March.
Yeah.
I don't know. They've really mishandled this entire game. Like I said, for me it's the social aspect, and also like the gunplay of Modern Warfare was just incredible. The sounds, just everything in that game just feels right for me.
Mm-hmm.
I know that like some like the jumping and shooting and like fire shotguns, whatever, like there's a bit that's too much, but at the same point, like shooting an MP5 in that game, like just the sound that it makes, the reload, how it looks, how it feels, just is so good and so strong. That like it doesn't matter, like the other stuff doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, they've got that shit down to a science, right?
Yeah, but the way that they've handled like season cycles and stuff, like they put a train on the map and then they put a subway on the map and nobody uses either. It's just like, maybe
it's almost them trying to pull more stuff from Apex.
Yeah, take some notes from Fortnite and blow up a part of the map and make it brand new. That's the real way to do it. Same thing with League of Legends. That's what they do to keep the game fresh, right? They change up parts of the map. They don't necessarily need a new map. League of Legends is the same little map that's always been, but they change different areas of it and tweak different parts of it that makes it feel new and different. And that's what Warzone's really missing right now is they need to like, you know, build a new city somewhere or blow up a city and do something else with it. But
change downtown fundamentally or something.
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right. Yeah, I actually had never thought of that. Like I was just thinking new map, but I'm I'm fine with the map. I just like change 2 or 3 of the sections or something and swap things out. I don't even need like a lore reason. I don't know why these companies feel like they need to build in some sort of lore for why the map's changing. Just do it, you know?
Yeah, I will say I don't know if you watched it, but and I don't even play Fortnite, but I watched their most recent release event, and what they do for releases, like they are
next level,
like
man.
Fortnite or not, you have to appreciate what they've done with that game, from it being a non-BR game whatsoever to building what they've built and the amount of work that team does.
Right.
I know they're making money hand over fist, but like
so much.
I will never play Fortnite probably again in my life. However, I appreciate the heck out of that game.
I only feel hard done by because I initially bought in early access for the non-BR section of the game before BR ever came out, and then they abandoned it. So that bums me out because I thought like the core of that game would have been fun as a co-op thing to do with friends, but whatever. But yeah, it's hard to deny like how like everyone on the planet knows what Fortnite is. Like I watched an Anderson .Paak concert in Fortnite. I watched Travis Scott in Fortnite. Like it's just kind of crazy how it's become like a platform. Like they've truly turned Fortnite into a platform. It's just wild. But it's
they had Iron Man in it.
Yeah, Kratos is in it now. And
yeah,
Master Chief, I think they announced last night. It's
yeah, and you can like wear Dak
so
Prescott jerseys. It's crazy.
It's so crazy. Anyway, those are the games we played this week. Just a couple things to touch on before we let you go, Greg, and you, the listeners, well, I'm sure. Thanks for joining, by the way, Greg. This is great. Anytime you want to come on, like it's just nice to have someone to bounce some topics off of. Someday we may even organize like an actual conversation rather than just like throwing shit at the wall.
I feel like that's like kind of a function of like the first one is like figuring out like how to pace and everything. Like there's always like some different things, and like just in general, like, you know, quarantine has been great in terms of getting to play games, but I also like don't have as many like lengthy conversations that aren't within playing a game or work than I used to, and not just like into like talk about games outside of games. So it's so hard not to like get caught up on like minute details that like are like that you've just been waiting to talk about.
That's what I'm here for, man. It's fine. That's what the people are here for too. So I wouldn't worry about it. But anyway, I mentioned that I'd only played Cyberpunk for about an hour. You have yet to play it, I think, right? Because Sarah was on Odyssey.
Yet to play it, but let me tell you real quickly, that game downloaded in 10 minutes.
That's
amazing.
What
Verizon Fios, fiber optic internet. Holy crap. 10 minutes.
This is
for
not
a 60
an ad read,
game.
everyone. Just so you know, this is not.
It's not an ad. Not an ad, but definitely a recommendation if you have an extra set of dollars around and you have fiber optic cabling available in the area. Just do it. Like it's
awesome.
So cool. You can just download stuff and delete it and just download it again for just for
shits.
Fun.
Yeah, I just set up fiber internet at Haley's place because there was a deal. She was only getting like 50 down, and it was like $60 a month, and I got her gigabit for 65 with auto pay, and they threw in like the mesh Wi-Fi network for free and a $200 gift card.
That's wild.
I was like, yeah, let's do that, because she also had a data cap, so if I would go over to her house and game, and one of you guys wanted to play like Warzone,
data caps exist in.
Listen, man, we both live in like close to a city. Like that's the reality for a lot of people around the United States still that aren't in like large markets.
Oh man,
that's why like
we're so backward. I don't want to like just in general like.
Well, we can get into infrastructure someday for sure.
But internet is like this.
It feels like a basic right,
but it's
at
like
this point.
water, right? Like that's how you access the world now, especially during a pandemic. Like that is so mind-boggling that like you know. When we pulled ourselves out of the Great Depression, we built a highway system in like 2 years that like spanned the entire country or whatever, how long it took, but we don't have it. I guess like the 5G and like 4G Wi-Fi connectivity stuff looks decent and should help out a lot of people, but Yeah, I didn't realize that data caps were a thing.
Yeah,
Still,
man, it's
just
crazy, and
outside of my
sometimes they're
purview.
like hidden data caps. And dude, telecom. We don't have time to talk about it on this cast, but sometime like telecom is a racket, man. It's crazy. But anyway, Cyberpunk, yours downloaded pretty fast. Mine did as well. Actually, I put my PS5 into rest mode while it was downloading, and then it didn't. So I would have gotten like 2 or 3 hours in last night, and then I just sit there and wait for it to download. Really pissed me off. I can't really say much about the gameplay. In fact, I won't say anything about it yet because I don't have like a long enough impression to really have an opinion. But something I did kind of want to touch on are review copies. Like the way I guess my question is, where do you think the burden lies? Do you think it lies with the reviewer to be like to call out like, hey, we only got PC copies and we're running it on this hardware and that is what we're reviewing? Or do you think it's on the developer to provide copies of all forms in which their games will be distributed for the reviewer
It's
to
on
cover?
both. There's no one that isn't culpable for that.
Right.
The console copies have supposedly been a buggy mess. And look, if you're getting a PC copy, say it. Say, hey, this is my
Right.
review of the PC version of this game because it is different.
To
A lot
be
of the
fair,
times they are different.
to be fair, I think a lot of the reviewers were saying they were reviewing it on PC and this is the hardware. But I almost feel like there were some reviewers that took a stand were like, hey, like we're not going to post a review until we get a chance to get on our hands on the rest of these, like on more of the distribution types. Like I just feel I feel that it's part of its integrity, right? Like I feel like you can't feasibly give a game a score a 9 out of 10 when you know that a large majority of the population that purchases that game is going to be buying the game, one, based on your review, but also on a system or a console that you weren't able to like check the performance of.
When I saw the recommended specs were 3070, I knew that the console version was going to be brutal in a lot of
Right.
ways.
Right.
If it needs a 3070, which is a $700 graphics card, and you are buying a $500 PS5, the odds that that game runs as it is intended to look is, well, very slim to nearly impossible.
Right. And again, not to bury the lead, but this is kind of like I watched it. The reason I wrote this down is because I watched a Digital Foundry video that showed like Xbox One S and PS4 base console performance is like hovering anywhere from like 15, 10, 12, 15 frames a second, 20 frames a second, like far from a steady 30 frames a second even. I like in my experience on PS5 at the very least, it's been pretty smooth. I'm playing the PS4 version because there isn't a PS5 version right now, but like it just feels, I don't know, something about the whole situation feels kind of gross to me. Something doesn't sit right with me with all that. I guess I haven't really given it enough room to like bloom in my head like what it is, or like have like a really hard stance. But
do you think that the game was delayed because of this though? Because if the recommended spec is a 3070 and a 3070 didn't exist until well after their intended release initially, do you think they couldn't get it to run?
I'm just wondering what the fuck they were doing, because like this was originally announced as a title for the PS4 and Xbox, and it's almost like they tried to pump so much stuff in for like next gen hardware, whether it be console or PC, like they totally forgot that they still needed to release it on base hardware. Like it just, I don't know. I'm not really sure what the decision process was. I presume that a lot of it was to deal with like the bugs that are in this game, because it seems like it's got a Bethesda level, Bethesda number of bugs this game has. I haven't seen.
You think it's Cyberpunk 2076?
Yeah, it's 2076. Was it Fallout 76? Right?
Yeah.
It's I haven't seen too much yet. Like, there's definitely some jank. It definitely doesn't seem as polished as The Witcher. I guess my recommendation would be if you're out there and you want to purchase this game, I would maybe wait for a couple more updates. I think I'm an idiot, and I'll be the first to tell you I'm an idiot. So like, you don't need to ride the wave of the zeitgeist like I do because I'm an idiot. I honestly think the best way to game these days is to buy a game like 3 to 4 months after release, sometimes half a year when you can get it on sale and you have like numerous patches, because we're essentially paying to like beta test this thing. You know, like they alpha tested it with their own game testers, and now we're out here in beta. Yeah, that's kind of
that's the thing, right? Like if you, so I was playing Hearthstone today, and I opened up the BattleNet launcher, and Call of Duty on PC is 33% off. Why did I buy it? I don't know. I thought they announced a Warzone. They announced a Warzone release date that was supposed to be 3-4 weeks ago, and it's not. And now it's not for another week. And so I bought Cold War because
you bought Cold War to play the campaign,
to get the campaign, sure. And but to you know, have the weapons that I could level for the new Warzone update. And you know, I like playing Call of Duty multiplayer. It's kind of like it's a passive version of gaming. I usually watch something and like, you know, just kind of like mess around and just like, I don't know, it's just like fun to just like play like a mindless like death match. But now it's 33% off. What was I doing? That was a waste.
Right.
I don't know. I don't really think I agree with you. Like I jump on games way too early at times. And there's times where I buy them and I'm like, I'm not gonna have time to play this game for a month. But I know
I am the worst with that.
Like I haven't even beaten Valhalla, and I'm just like, oh, I already downloaded Cyberpunk. Here we go.
Right, here we go. Yeah.
You know what's weird is in Odyssey, I got the Steam achievement, or Sarah got the Steam achievement for beating the first chapter of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and only 76% of purchasers of Odyssey have gotten that achievement. That means 25 or 24%, a quarter of the people that purchased that game never beat the first chapter of it.
Right.
Isn't that wild?
Or didn't download at all. Like they probably just got it on sale and it's just sitting there.
Right.
You're right. I'd love to see like a metric that's like total purchases versus average playtime. Because I see the same thing on like with PlayStation trophies. It tells you the percentage of people that got like certain trophies. And sometimes I'll get one. It's like 25% of people got this. I'm like, 25%? Like I'm a quarter of the way through the game and you like can't dodge this trophy. So like, what is everyone doing? I don't know.
Right. I wonder if that's like also a number that developers internally track in terms of like their own
they have to
perceived metrics of the game, because even if it sells decently well, if people aren't hitting those baseline trophies, that means that like the next game isn't going to sell well.
But yeah, potentially. Right? Yeah.
Because like if only 25% of people get through a quarter of the game, are they going to buy the next one?
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I've never considered that. I'd love to just like pull a trophy list for one game and like do a deep dive on like for example Spider-Man. Actually, Spider-Man might be a bad example because I think that
we got two spin-off pods. We've got stats in video games and
esports.
And a second one not labeled Now That's a Racket, where we talk about different rackets.
Oh yeah, mainly. So first is Big Telecom. Then we'll talk Big Pillow.
Big Pillow,
really? Man, Big Feather. Oh my gosh. Don't get me started.
Down with down. I'm with you.
Down with down, dude. That's all I'm saying. All right. Well, I did want to talk about the Game Awards a little bit, but I think we're running out of time. So I'll push that to another cast. I don't know, Greg. Like, I'd love to have you on again. I'm sure you and I will chat it out and figure something out and work on a formula. But you're welcome on the show anytime. So thanks for joining today.
Of course, man. Have a good rest of your evening, and pleasure being on.
Great. So no emails today, guys. Again, thanks to Greg for hanging out. If you want to support the show, you can do so on patreon.com/breadradio. You can buy merch at breadradio.live. Listen anywhere you listen to podcasts or watch the video on YouTube. But honestly, like just telling a friend is super helpful outside of all the other, what do you call that? Expressions on the internet, interactions. Yeah, interactions. I'll say interactions on the internet. So tell a friend, give her a listen. We'll be back next week, probably sooner, to talk about the Game Awards. I just got to workshop some of that content. Like I said, carve out some time this weekend to watch those videos. And we'll see you guys next week. So as always, I'm Bread. And I'll leave you guys with the common theme: be cool to one another. Have a good night.